Hi everyone, this is Denise at Something Beautiful Handcrafts, and I am finishing a pair of stocks. Well, technically, I finished 5 pairs, and I am starting a new pair of socks. And so while I'm doing that, I just want to have a little bit of a conversation. All right, so generally when I make videos, I just strictly talk about the actual project that I'm making, and I don't go into any type of detail. I don't have any type of discussions about my life or anything, or unless of course it's directly related to what I'm doing. And it's kind of interesting that when you join social media, you generally join social media to be social. You are looking for a sense of community, belonging, people who share the things you do, thoughts you have, and that kind of stuff. And really, when I joined social media, I wasn't really looking for that. I used Facebook to keep up with my college friends, but for the most part, I joined groups and I gleaned information. That's pretty much what it was about for me. It wasn't really about making any connections with the people in the group. So I just was basically there to learn. And I found that that doesn't actually work too well. I felt, after a while, I began to feel disconnected. After I had learned all that I needed to learn, the groups were of no use to me. And basically that's because I did not develop any type of relationships with the people in the groups, you know. And occasionally there were some people who came out of the groups onto my personal profile. And generally, I tell people that my profile is for people I know and actually interact with, and I just don't make, allow friends with everybody who asks that are not really people that I know. I have pages to follow for people who come from the groups, because a lot of times you don't really have anything in common except for what's going on in a group. And there have been a few people that I have allowed on my profile because I just interacted with them that heavily on different levels. And now that I'm not participating in those activities like the rabbits and the dog shows and a lot of fiber activities, I found that I still have a lot in common with those people. So there were a few crossovers, but for the most part, the people in the group stay in the groups and I don't interact with them. And I mean, that went on for like 10 years. And I found after a while that after I had, I guess, used up the information in the groups, I really had no purpose for them. So I left a lot of the groups. And I just couldn't really figure out why. Maybe I just don't want to think about it. Why I didn't really feel connected to them. So when I started YouTube, I really started it just to give information out to the people who were asking questions about some things. And so my YouTube videos were basically, I'm about to lose that stitch. My YouTube videos were basically about information. And I watched other people's videos, and I watched them for information. I rarely subscribed. If they said to click the like button, then I tried to remember to click it. I never really commented. I wasn't really interacting with those people. I was just watching their videos for the information and not really building a sense of community, I guess. And so after making videos on all of the topics that I felt that people had asked about in different groups, I did kind of run out of projects, but also I just didn't really feel connected to the channel. And I did all those strategies about how to maximize your views and all that kind of stuff and all the things they tell you about metrics. And it just seems like I could not get the kind of views that I wanted. And YouTube became about building my channel or building my brand and all that kind of stuff. And after a while, that just really got old. I've never been much for hustling, and I've really never been much for self promotion. Uh, it's just seemed like almost like begging, but it's only recently really I've realized that as I watch other people's videos, some people have a lot of subscribers, some people have few subscribers, less than I have. What I notice is that in the comment section, there are actually comments. People are talking to these people. It doesn't matter how many views they have. What matters is the interactions that they're having in the comment section. And that's when I realized what I'm really missing from the Facebook experience, from the YouTube experience, from the Instagram experience, basically from the social media experience, from the blog experience, is that interaction. I blog and I vlog and I do these social media things to give out information. And one thing I almost never give out is any of myself at all. And I'm a very like personal, private person. I just keep everything to myself. And I'm like that in the real world too. Like you could know me for 8, 9 years and not really have any personal information about me other than what you can glean from what you see me do. And when you can get me to answer questions evasively. I've just never really thought about it like that. Hmm. So you have to ask, am I as cold and dry as I seem on video? And pretty much the answer to that question is yes. I am. But people seem to like me in real life. So I guess not really. It's just it takes a while for me to kind of open up. At any rate, so the older I get, the more I feel like I need to foster a sense of community because a lot of the crafts that I do, there are so few people. And like when you look at worldwide, there's lots of people buying yarn, there's lots of people buying fiber, there's like big companies making spinning wheels and all that kind of stuff. So there's not like there's a whole, like, there's just like nobody. It's just that there, compared to some of the other things, there are so few of us in certain spaces that a lot of us do feel disconnected. Oh, this is okay. I see what's happening. A lot of us do feel disconnected, and we're looking for a sense of community. There are a lot of us that craft alone, and we're looking for that sense of community. And so we turn to social media, as evidenced by the thousands of people in these groups, and we try to get information. A lot of us turn to YouTube because we want to see this stuff in action, which you can't really see because my hands are kind of covering this. So let me see if I can give you a better view. And so we want the information, but we don't really want a video of a person who sounds like they're reading it out of a book. We would like someone who makes us feel comfortable, someone who engages us in a personal way, someone who is a little more human. And so I watched the videos. Oh, when I first started, I watched the videos of the people, and they have those yarn videos, and they're just like talking about their lives, their dogs, their cats, their kitties, and all kind of stuff. And they spend the first half of the video like drinking coffee. And I always thought that was kind of like a little too much voyeurism. And I don't know, it just was not really my thing. But those are the people who get views. And I really had to think about why. And mostly it's because they have a personal presence. a personality. They make people feel comfortable. People kind of like that thing. They're not looking for a sterile um, Ben Stein type teacher. And I can definitely assure you that I was not that kind of a teacher when I was in my classroom. But kids, unless you're like really stiff, kids have a way of making you come out of yourself, you know, and you just really enjoy them. And not to say I was a pretty strict teacher, but I also did things like climb on top of the table to show my students the difference between mountains and valleys. And we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with them. So that was cool. That part about teaching I really liked. So, at any rate, what I found is that when I had exhausted pretty much all of the things that I needed to do or I needed to learn, that the groups just held nothing for me because I didn't have that sense of connection. And I found that way with most of the social media. Just Instagram, just posting pictures and getting likes wasn't of any interest to me. And you know what? Just posting videos and getting likes is not of a great interest to me, enough to keep me doing it. What I needed to do is build a sense of community. I couldn't figure out how. It wasn't through all these tactics to get more views. Basically, what I really just need to do is try being myself, or try being a better version of myself. Okay, there we go. That looks about right. So I was really going to quit YouTube. Like, I felt like I was putting a whole lot of effort into something that wasn't working. And so I hope you didn't just see me do that. Oh my goodness. This room is like a hot mess, and that's because I'm doing all of my crafts basically in this tiny space. And so, I can't just do one craft and clear the space for that one craft and keep it going. And there's a couple different reasons. First of all, because I would get bored. Secondly, because it would aggravate tendonitis to repetitively do something. And then sometimes it's just kind of mind numbing. Uh, like the other day, I was working on the sock that's underneath this one, and I just could not get that thing right. And I must have restarted it at least 6 times. So I had to take a break from it. Or sometimes the work is so intensive, you just kind of have to step back and take a break. So the craft cycle and this, they're kind of out. I'm not really much on putting things back, especially when it's in process. I just kind of lay it down. So there's like stuff everywhere. And so I always keep my shots kind of tight, which would, I mean, if I would clean my space, this wouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to make an effort to do that. At any rate, so it makes for interesting videos for me to number one, try not to show anything else that's in my space. Number two, try not to show any of myself in the actual picture. Um, that's a thing. I don't know what to do about that. I have watched people for years that you've never seen anything but their hands. And I got some brown paint on my hands. And then I become like really self-conscious about my hands, because sometimes I paint my fingernails, sometimes I don't. I do a lot of gardening, a lot of painting, a lot of stuff that ruins fingernail polish. So I have to kind of try to remember that someone's actually looking at my hands. And then two, I'm just self-conscious in general. Like the whole COVID mask thing. I think it's the first time I've ever said COVID on YouTube. The whole mask thing hasn't bothered me because that means you don't have to look at my face in public. I know that sounds terrible. Um, but it is what it is. And I don't really think that devalues my self-worth, because my appearance is not really where my sense of self comes from. So if I don't think I'm, all that pleasing to the eye, whatever, I feel that I'm rather skilled and particularly intelligent. So those are the things that matter to me the most. But pretty much, if I could just like wear a veil all the time, that would not bother me at all. I wouldn't have to comb my hair. At any rate, so I prefer not to show my face uh, on YouTube. And I thought for a while maybe that showing my face or not showing my face might help with my videos. But there's plenty of people who have successful YouTube channels whose faces I've never seen and never actually really think about it. So I don't know. That's a thought. All right, so now it's time to put the yarn on. This is when things get complicated. I want to say that this is a Croy. I can't remember. The label's down there somewhere, but I pulled all the labels off and didn't bother to save them. Well, I saved them, but I didn't bother to match them up with the yarns. Sometimes the labels have pictures on them. You can tell what they are. And sometimes I don't have any pictures, and I've got a lot of yarn that's not in English. So, but this was a thicker one. And I'm hoping it's going to be pretty. I did not buy this yarn. And you know what? I'm going to tell you right now. I think I probably said it before too, is that 9 times out of 10, when you see a yarn that is not hand spun, sometimes I'm telling you, sometimes you cannot tell the difference between my hand spun and the other yarn. Not bragging, just saying. Maybe I am bragging. Sometimes, most times, when you see me with a commercial yarn that is clearly a commercial yarn, I didn't buy it because I buy almost no commercial yarn except for acrylic for people who don't get hand spun yarn or good wool yarn for whatever reason. It's not always negative. Sometimes it's, I know they're not going to be able to upkeep with that, or there are certain charities that will accept natural fiber yarns. So you can pretty much guarantee I didn't buy this. This was gifted to me, and I'm really thankful for it. And we're about to find out what it's going to do because I have not used this skein before, and honestly, I didn't even look at it when I pulled it out of the package. It was the appropriate color, so I just pulled it out of the sock yarn bin. Okay, we had some kind of tightening there. I don't know what that was, but whenever the machine, ooh, I'm too far over. Whenever the machine does that, then you need to stop it. Let's see. I turned too far. When you put the rubber on, the needles are out of work. And when you hit the work switch, it takes about 4 needles. Now, this is just for this machine. I can only talk about this machine because it is the only machine I've handled. But normally I would have done it over here if I wasn't talking. Which is like reason number 4 why I don't shoot the breeze while I'm talking into these, these demonstrations. Because I would probably mess things up. Okay, anyway, it starts about 4 needles after you turn the switch on. So I wanted to start over here. Usually I adjust things here and then I'll turn the switch on right about here. But because I was talking, I turned the yarn guide almost all the way up to the place where I need to turn the needles on. Is it absolutely crucial that I put the needles on at that space? Actually, no. It's over there because that's where I put my mark for the row counting, and I'm kind of obsessive about it. But if I start a little further over, you're actually not going to notice a difference because a sock machine, it looks like it's going circle, circle, row by row, but what's really happening is it's spiraling down. So the rows never really join up. So you're not actually going to notice as long as I'm not, um, as long as I am not, 3 or 4 rows difference, then you're like, oh, that sock is slightly longer than the other. And then, I mean, people's feet are slightly longer than the other. So you still might not ever notice, but I am obsessed. And I had somebody say something about not trying to be perfect and all that kind of but just relax. But let me tell you this. People have different personalities, right? And the whole not trying to be perfect thing is a great thing. I used to tell my students that it doesn't have to be completely perfect. It just has to meet the requirements. And that works for the most part, except that when you have a specific personality or a certain type of personality, you can tell yourself to relax, but that is your personality type. And instead of people telling you to go with the flow, or that's, you don't have to be like that. Basically, if you are like that, and it's not, of course, like some mental thing that's detrimental to your health, that's different. If you are like that, you just do what you need to do to satisfy that in you. It's not as if I feel like nothing's ever right. And so I'm just completely, I get, manic, depressant over it. I do feel that when I do something to perfection, that it is perfect for me, I have that satisfaction. So I can do it to what my tolerance calls perfection and be happy about it. But I know I won't be satisfied unless I do it to my standard of perfection. So there's nothing wrong with having a standard of your ideal of perfection and reaching that. Of course, if that perfection is reasonable and obtainable. We used to have something called, well, they still do have something called SMART goals. And if you look at teaching, or you look at UX design, or you look at instructional design, which are the new careers I'm trying to break into because I really need a full-time job. Uh, Starving artist thing is not really working. But if you look at those things, what you'll find is that um, they have something they call SMART goals. And part of the SMART goals is this goal attainable? You don't want to make goals that are not attainable. That's where you run into problems. But my idea of the perfect sock is very much an attainable goal. I have a standard that I look at, and ooh, I have uh, some stitches here I missed. See the whole talking through the video thing. All right, let me fix those. Okay, I wish I could show you this. You can't really see this on this side, but while I was talking, I missed some stitches, and they are still on the needle. So what I'm actually just going to do is drop that stitch, put it onto the river. That solves that problem right there. Then I need to take this stitch off of here, and it needs to go somewhere. Let me see. I'm going to put it, I need to slip this one off real quick, because it definitely needs to go somewhere. Or does it? No, actually, it doesn't need to go anywhere. It can be dropped. So I'm just going to drop it. Bam. Take that out. And I've got another one right here. I don't know what I was doing. I'm just going to drop that. Put it onto the river. There are a lot of people who find the river tedious. But now that I understand what's happening here, I don't find it tedious at all. I mean, would it be faster just to crank a tube? Yeah, it would be faster just to crank a um, hung heel. Yeah, but the ripper is not much more work. Okay, so there we go. Anyway, back to the goals. They have these goals. They're smart goals. They're attainable goals. And did I tick off? I can't tell from over here. Okay, yes. And basically, that's all this is about. I have my goal. It's attainable. That's my version of perfection, and I'm okay with it. Okay, there we go. Like I said before, if you spin or knit or whatever, and you consider your weave, you consider your mistakes, designs, or your uh, lumpy bumpy yarn as art yarn or textured yarn, you're just spinning for um, pure enjoyment and aesthetics. This is definitely not an issue. But that's kind of not the way I do things. I tend to do things to master my craft. Well, at least for the spinning is concerned. The weaving is a lot more relaxed. And as far as the sock machine goes, there are a lot of things that can be done with this machine that I may never actually do. Because in this case, I'm not actually trying to master this machine. I'm just trying to make it usable. Okay, so I'm checking right here to make sure I have all my stitches on. It looks fine. I can always fix a stitch that drops, or at least most of the time I can. That other yarn was evil. So I'm not gonna worry too much about it, but it looks good. I'm not dropping a ton of stitches either. Two or three is okay. Like 3 is my max. Once I drop more than 3 stitches, then it's time for me to take the sock off and just redo it, because that's just one too many latching up. So this is just cranking around. Oh, yep, dropped it. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about that. You know what I do want to know is I've had problems from this side before. I'm going to take that needle out, put this needle in. I only had problems with when the ribber is on. So there's something about the motion of the ribber and the combination of the yarn that's giving me issues. I'm not really sure what it is. But I don't really know what's going on with that. That will have to be a thing I will have to figure out and resolve. But that's just one drop stitch, so we'll see how it goes. I hate latching up. Oh, I just really hate it. When I hear that sound, I know that I've dropped a stitch. That is a problem. There is something definitely going on here that I can't put my finger on. I'm going to try this. I'm going to actually turn the tension on the ribber back down. So I'm going to go ahead and restart this sock anyway. Ooh, that is definitely problematic. I'm starting to think it is my yarn guard. Okay, so usually what happens is when I have any issues, I just delete the video. And you know what? That's why I tell people, like, when they see things I post or videos and they're like, oh my goodness, that's just so perfect. I'm like, don't believe that. Because with a video, I have the opportunity to press record and stop whenever I desire, and I have the ability to delete whatever I want to delete. So you only see what I want you to see. Oh, and you guys, really, you got to remember that about any type of media. What you're seeing on TV, what you're seeing on other social medias, what you're seeing from celebrities, they can delete anything they wish to at any point. And when it comes to pictures, they can be photoshopped. I mean, how many times it took me to actually do the picture? Like, you cannot believe that stuff. You can't believe it. There's a lot more going on behind that. But in this case, for the sake of transparency, I'm going to stop the video here because I'm already 24 minutes into babbling. And I am going to drop the stitches. And so what I do is I take the yarn off. And this is a little tricky with the rubber on because I don't want to cut my yarn, which would be easier. So as I go around in a circle, then my yarn is going to gather onto the rubber. So just try to ignore that. I should just cut it, but then I have to put it back together. And I have, ties in the rubber, and that never really works out well when I tie a yarn. Like on the cylinder's not a problem. I'll fix the tie on the inside, but on the rubber, things get caught. And I'm just going to spin this around. It's going to drop. The sound that I was hearing was the yarn guide hitting the latches. So this yarn guide is kind of wonky. It's much further apart on this side than it is on this side. And as far as I can tell, there's really not anything I can do about that. And it causes me to drop stitches when I am doing the heel. But for the most part, other than that, it doesn't really cause me any issues, except it seems to be causing them with the rubber. So it's just going to drop all my stitches here from the rubber and from the cylinder. I'm going to try not to tangle this up. And then I'm going to start again. And this sock can appear in a different video. Well, part 2 maybe. Okay, see, there we go. Rubber pops off. Oh, you know what? Can't pop it off yet. Needles are still in work. It won't lift off that the needles are in work. It won't go out of work. The needles are not in the right position. Okay, there we go. So now it's out of work. Okay, and now it'll come off. So I'm going to wrap that from around here. And I'm going to go ahead and deal with that. I will catch you all later. Have a great day.